You're listening to In Sumter with Sarah Jane, a show about celebrating Sumter, a part of the Item Podcast Network, presented by SKF.
It seems like it's present, like it's in the present, like happening right now, but at the same time, it seems like
it's got some
100
really
years ago.
antiquated thought processes.
Right.
We've been there, and they're like, no, we're not doing this anymore.
Right.
Yeah. no, we're not doing this.
Harry Potter, new Bible.
Harry Potter's not the new Bible,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
do love it.
Okay.
Okay, so I gotta get this started. I think.
Yeah. So what are we doing?
I'm Sarah Jane, and you're In Sumter with Sarah Jane, and this is Micah Green. What is your official title?
My official title is convoluted, and it's a little much, but it's
Convoluted?
It's Chief Digital Officer.
Is it really?
It is.
If you had a business card, it would say Chief Digital
I have
Officer.
a business card, and it says Chief
Digital Officer.
Yeah.
Man, that just sounds like you could be in charge of any and everything. You know what
Yeah.
else that sounds like? Sounds like you can get in trouble for a lot.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
this was digitized.
Yeah. I think
That falls under your heading.
Yeah. I've been really lucky working with Vince, who's our publisher here. He's been very good at kind of making up titles, because we don't, what we do isn't in like the normal hierarchy of newspaper business, right? We're
Well,
trying to figure it out.
what?
So we wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Is essentially what.
So
that title
I wanted
is.
to find like what's normal when I think normal newspaper business, and tell me if I've got it wrong or not. When I think normal newspaper business, I think stuff happens in town. Somebody get locked up,
Yeah.
or somebody does something cool. You put it in a physical paper, and that's typical newspaper stuff. People die. People
Yeah.
sell things.
Yeah,
That's
and
typical newspaper.
we're essentially doing the same thing, except, and we are doing that same thing. On a daily basis, but we, with everything that's happened on the digital front, we've just had to meet our audience where they are, and so that's online, that's on Facebook, that's on these social media platforms. And so because of that, I do photograph a lot. I do a lot of video. I edit videos sometimes. But I also, make sure stuff online looks good to a certain degree.
Well, and I think just sitting here talking to you now, thinking about newspaper, that was the first mass media opportunity for anybody.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first way that you could communicate on a broad scale.
Mm-hmm.
Was it that or radio? I don't know. Maybe it was newspaper.
No,
I'm
it
gonna
was,
go ahead and say
definitely
newspaper.
print. Yeah, I think print was definitely, and that's what's been such a struggle for so many papers our size for these past almost, it's crazy, almost 20 years now, is that print newspapers for well over 100 years were the way to reach an advertising market, right? Like there's,
Yeah.
Especially locally.
Yeah.
Like if you were a local hardware store, the only way that you could affordably reach the people that are going to be coming to your store is through the newspaper. And so,
And everybody had a newspaper.
right, yeah.
So it
everybody
wasn't
got
until recently that not everybody had a newspaper.
Right, but so not everybody gets a physical newspaper to their door right now, but a lot of those people that may not get it to their door, they follow us on Facebook. Or they
Oh,
go
yeah.
on-
Well, and I want this to come full circle of like, this is a news team that has adapted to changing times.
Yes,
Of-
yeah.
So I was privileged in coming and being in Dallas. Was it Fort Worth,
Yeah,
Texas?
yeah.
Okay, so you got to help me because I don't know all the phrases
Yeah,
for
we were
it.
in Fort Worth.
You were in Fort Worth, Texas.
You got that
and
part right.
I knew where I was, and I knew you were there. So, but it was an innovation award
Yeah.
nationally. So, and it's this crazy award that only newspapers, only media companies.
Yeah, so I think they may have started opening it up to people outside of like print media, because print media is still classified as print media even if you're for the most part, doing everything online, or if your main medium of communicating with people is writing articles and stuff, that's print media.
Okay, so we have a local magazine, Brindle and Black.
Right.
That's print media.
Yes,
Okay.
they're 100% print media because they do a physical magazine, right?
Okay, so and then another, Columbia has something where it would be Wednesdays, the Free Wednesday newspaper, and it used to be just print, but then it went online, and it might be just an online thing now. Is that still a media?
I mean, it's definitely still media, right? But it's I think that they would still consider themselves print media because of their main medium is through the written word.
Okay.
Of course, the way that they meet people is digitally. But if they started out that way, I would assume that everybody that someone who owns something like that would still consider themselves print media,
Okay.
as opposed to someone that's an outlet that is video focused,
Yeah.
or even just visual focused.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of ground to cover here, I think, more so than I thought, because now we just have to define media.
We shouldn't define.
We should just keep going.
Yeah.
So, your team, the item, was
Yep.
nominated for the Innovator Award.
Yes.
And you, Kayla the editor, Vince the publisher, this is the second time
That's
you've
how
been.
I called him. That's how I Kayla the editor. Are you there?
Kayla the editor, you mean
Vince
your
the
wife?
publisher,
You
are
call-
you there?
may I speak with Kayla the editor?
Yes. Yeah.
She has my last name. Get her on the phone stat. I got
Yes.
a hot newsletter.
So my wife. Please put her on.
Okay. Put her on the phone. I want to know what we're eating.
She does many more things.
Okay, so this is the second time the three of you have been nominated for this award. So it was really cool to go and see like the people in the room, because when you're there and see like, ooh, like I'm sitting in the room with a millionaire, possibly billionaire, like a couple of them, a few times over.
Yeah.
And you guys are over there, you're by far the youngest ones in there. By far the youngest, big gap between the three of you and literally anybody else sitting in that room.
Thank you for reminding me.
So it was really cool, but it was one of the most inspiring things that I've seen, and to have the privilege to go and watch you guys present something of, we came to a place that we didn't know, a small town, and we just jumped in with the community, and we love the community, and we just try to make communication open and available. I think that's cool.
That means a lot. I mean, it definitely, with what we'd done, we'd worked at a paper that was similar in size to a certain degree outside of Atlanta.
Staff-wise?
Staff-wise, yes.
Okay.
Not population-wise. Definitely a little bit bigger population-wise. But we just we think that we have a pretty good pulse on how local news is best represented for advertisers.
Okay.
I mean, we're the bottom line is a lot of local news places are bottoming out because they can't get the advertising revenue, right?
Okay.
And so what our job is, of course, we have to do the editorial work, and we have to make sure that we're doing all of our journalistic duty to tell the stories the right way, to make sure we're vetting our sources, all this stuff. And that's what Kayla's so good at on the editorial side. She keeps us very, very journalistically ethical.
Man, I love what you're saying, because just the thought, I've been thinking about this a ton lately, people's motivation to do something. And so like your motivation, so I sell real estate, and your motivation to call people could be, I'm looking for business. Or your motivation to call people can be, I want to check on them and see that it's okay. Both of them mean I'm going to make about 20 phone calls a day.
Yeah.
But my conversations are going to look a lot differently. And so when you come from a place of, I want to celebrate the community, I want to say what's really happening, and I want everybody to be informed, and don't let me put words in your mouth, But when you come from that place, I think good things happen. I think people are more willing to jump on board of like, yeah, I love this place. I do want to know what's going on, but I love this place.
Well, for a long time, local media has been very concerned with trying to figure out how to pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
And so that's job number one. I mean, we have to keep people in this building. We have to employ people that are good at what they do, because this is a profession that if you aren't good at what you do, it shows very quickly, because it goes out into a public eye every single day.
Every single time.
Yeah.
I think it goes right back to what I've been talking about the last 3 weeks of like that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of where if you can't pay the bills, you're not worried about how, like, listen.
You can't see macro.
Yeah.
You
don't
can't,
come to
you
me
can't-
with this problem.
Right.
I'm worried about this.
Right.
And
We have to pay somebody. Right.
listen, homegirl needs a snack
Yeah.
for her whole family.
For the entire, for every mouth she feeds. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's job number one, is figure out how you can pay those bills. But I mean, what we've kind of been trying to figure out, and what we think that we're getting close to, is that caring about your community and being embedded in that is not only good because it's
I'm totally picking up what you're saying.
right, like
yeah.
it's just good for you to do, but it's good business.
It's good business.
Because you have to gain loyalty in what we're doing before anything. And that's the toughest part, is convincing people that you're not there to
you got
poke and prod.
convince people that your heart's in the right place.
Right, yeah.
That your motivation is true.
Yes, there's a lot of distrust in the media nationally right now,
Yes.
and sometimes that can trickle over to the local side. I think most people are smart enough to know the difference between what local news is trying to do and what national news sometimes does, and stoking some fear, especially right now.
Yeah.
We want to be a resource is the bottom line, and especially right now, Kayla and our team is doing an incredible job at making sure that the right information is there. It's not convoluted. There's not extra stuff that you don't need.
I get that impression that when I read anything from the item, it is information given to me.
Yeah.
It's not like, we want you to feel this way, we want you. So I just feel like I'm being educated on another topic.
Yeah.
It's
especially
good reading.
right now.
And I like to read.
Right.
And I like to read for reading's sake.
Yeah.
Of just like.
But
I
right
know
now,
it's good.
people need to read for information's sake, right? Like whether that be, we're updating stuff online, 20 plus times a day. We've got stuff going up, from the minute we wake up until we go to bed. And so, whether or not you're picking up a paper in the morning or whatever, we want to be able to update you immediately. There's not a lot of cities and counties this size that have a local news presence.
Yeah, they've all kind of died out because they've gotten bought out, or
Yeah.
it's just not been. They haven't been able to pay people.
Or they're run by somebody that is at minimum, an hour away, 2 hours away. Sometimes if you're a Gannett paper, your
Which again
closest
brings you
corporate
back to,
person
like-
is in New York.
Yeah, because you can't pay somebody to be closer.
Right.
You can't afford to keep somebody closer.
Right.
So anyway, I love the newspaper.
Yeah.
I love staying informed, but I'm here because I love you, and I want to talk about you. So so you're the digital officer.
Yeah.
King of everything electronic. No.
Well, that's what they tell me.
Okay. What do? You wake up, you put your shoes on, you eat your Cheerios.
Yes, Cheerios.
You come up here,
Chex.
you flag mailmen down.
I do. I wear a lot of hats like everybody here does. I'm on the visual side, and so I do think that my role has become more important in the digital age, because not to say that when you picked up a newspaper, 30 years ago that the art wasn't the first thing that struck you, but there's just a lot greater need for images on a digital platform, because every page that you click on, every link, as you go to the next page needs to have art on it. And
we have so much coming at us, and we're a very wealthy country.
Yeah.
And so we have the luxury of scrolling past information that people have put effort into. But because everybody can put a little bit of effort into it. So it becomes about a craft at that point.
I definitely,
which I think you nail, honestly.
I take it that way. I got into journalism. I wrote for a daily newspaper for 2 years straight out of school, and so I got into it from a writing standpoint, just a storytelling standpoint.
Straight out of college, straight out of high school, straight
out of college. Yeah.
Okay, you worked for. Okay, go ahead.
For a daily newspaper for 2 years, and during that time, had to pick up a camera because we were short staffed. This was 2012-ish, and you couldn't have got. Unless you got into the newspaper business, maybe like 5 years before that, you couldn't have gotten in a worse time. It was plummeting.
Well, because 2008, I know it was 4 years prior to the crash, but 2008 was rough on the really big cities, and then it trickled down to other cities. And you're from, I'm assuming the city is where the other newspaper was. You had the
so where I went to Mississippi State, and I got a school. Yeah, I as soon as I graduated, I got a job at the paper at the nearest big city.
Yeah, 2012 was still tough economically. Like, we were back on the rise, but it was still really tough economically.
Yeah. Well, and so not only do you have, it's like what we're experiencing now, to a certain degree. Not only did you have an economic downturn that was affecting everyone, but you also, on top of that, for newspapers or for media companies, you had the digital revolution that was really taking hold then, with social media and everything,
compounding the punches on print media,
and no one, and very few people had figured out digital.
And here rolls up a new college grad, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I can work a camera.
Yeah.
Who's
ready to fire me?
You did or did not have a camera previous to somebody being like, can you go take pictures?
So my mom, when I was in college, because I was very lucky. I went into school in a journalism major and finished in 4 years, which is crazy that I didn't jump around with my very short attention span. But figured out what I wanted to do. But so in college at some point, I can't even remember specifically when, but my mom gave me her old camera that she used to use. I played sports growing up, and so she used to take pictures of me doing that. And
because she loves you.
Yeah, she does love me so much. Hey, Mom.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom.
And so that was she gave it to me, and I started shooting with that.
So you did a little bit in college, but then
very little, mostly sports stuff. I really used it as an opportunity. I was working for the college newspaper. Went to Mississippi State, like I said. I wanted to go and shoot some of these big SEC football games. And so I got to do that through the student newspaper. I had no business being down there. I didn't know what I was doing.
So, moment of truth. You wanted to go because you wanted to take pictures of it, or you wanted to go because you wanted to go to the game?
No, I wanted to go to the game and be like in the coolest spot, right?
I've got a game. Did you have one of the big lenses?
I did. So no, we didn't even have
you were
good
just
equipment.
Hanging out up there.
I had
that's awesome.
I have a 7200,
awesome.
the same lens that I use to this day.
So you kind of got your feet under you with taking pictures of sports games.
Yeah.
So which you were telling me last week that you took a picture at the Clemson game, and somebody wrote to you, screenshotted one of your pictures. It was like, print this for me.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool.
It was, and I will say, okay, so this is a good opportunity to take a side note here. I'm not from South Carolina. I do not. I don't really have a dog in the fight in the Clemson South Carolina thing.
Spurs up.
But
just to make it clear,
I've been here for almost 2.5 years now. 2 football seasons. Let's just say that, and that's all that matters.
Yes. In SEC Nation,
I've gotten to go to 2 national championships because of Clemson. To cover these games. And so Clemson is, I'm not a Clemson fan, but I'm as close as you can get.
Thank you for tuning in today on In Sumter with Sarah Jane.
And we're out.
Cut.
Yeah. So
I'm just kidding.
mean,
they have a really good football
the Tigers
program,
have been good to me.
and I do like watching their games because it's a talented team.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so and gosh, I think
Pretty
even
much.
Carolina fans can admit that Dabo's the bomb.
Dabo's
He's just a good man.
So
I just
fun.
love him.
So fun to watch.
Okay, so you learned how to take
Yeah.
pictures at sports games, which is probably why I love your pictures that are in motion
Mm-hmm.
the most. Might be a reason, but man, I think that you have an ability to capture something. Like it's almost like it's a still frame, but you almost feel like you know what happened right before and after the picture was taken.
That's awesome. No one's ever said that. That's really cool.
Well, you had a picture of a pool with all these people around it, and I just felt like I could have been there. Like I almost heard like a beer. I was just like, yeah, I want to be there too. I opened that and then took this picture.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's awesome. That means a lot. I mean, I'm very lucky that. I feel like it's a profession that I'm like learning stuff every day because I didn't go to school to take photos. I went to school just to write, and so I've never really worked under another photographer, and so I've just been kind of learning as I go. But I think that's been a really cool way to find like my own voice, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it.
I think it's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So, anyways, I love what I get to do. I think it's really cool.
Okay, so you take pictures, obviously, for the paper.
Yep.
Is there another photographer for the paper?
So not really. I mean, we definitely, and this is a new newsroom thing. I think that people, that a lot of news organizations are adopting. For your average reporter, they need to be able to take their own photos for the most part. That's kind of what we expect of our reporters now, at least for their basic stories. If it's a big story that may take a couple days to report on or whatever, I would like to go out and do it if I can, but we definitely expect our reporters to be able to do that. I mean, they've all at the very least got a pretty good smartphone in their pocket to take a good photo. But we've made a point to make available a few cameras that they can access at all times too. So I do help to curate the photos that come through that they bring, and so I'll maybe help edit them or help select what should maybe go on the page or whatever. But then so there's that, and then our other side gig as well is Sumter Today.
I was like, I feel like that has caught so much attention. It's so easy with social media to share it.
Yeah.
To just say, hey, this is my town. I want to show you. And we have so many people that have families that don't live here.
Well, it's all positive news. I mean, it's something we did in the previous and outside of Atlanta where we were, and it's just a really people complain a lot, especially on the national level, about national media not telling the good stories enough.
Yeah.
And I get that, there's some validity to that. But so this show is meant to do that. It's a purely positive news show. It's sponsored by 3 amazing sponsors that give us the opportunity to tell these stories and that are really invested in this community. And so, we go out to the schools, we go out to stuff at the base, we go out to any event that's happening around here. We want to tell all the cool stuff that is happening in Sumter. Our editorial side, the print side they're going to report on the stuff.
It goes back to what you talked about being embedded in the community of I love and celebrate this community. And then the daily is
they're gonna hold you accountable.
Yeah, the daily, this did happen.
Right.
It sucks that it happened.
Yeah.
We're going through this together.
Yep.
This did happen. We want you to know about it.
My biggest example right now for people when I'm trying to tell people about kind of what we do with the show is with the school board. They have taken some hits in the PR department over the past 2 years.
Ooh.
We can say it like that, right?
Okay, yeah. No, I've been on the
but
Facebook Lives.
But at the same time, we know that school district is doing some incredible stuff in their classrooms. And so we get to, Bruce Mills, one of our really good reporters, gets to go to the school board meetings on Tuesdays or whatever day it is, and he comes back and he'll report exactly how it happened, good or bad.
To the T. Very detailed, sir.
And then me and Ty, my partner, we get to go into these classrooms and show people what these kids are actually doing. And I think it's gone a long way in gaining some respect from the community, that we're not just here to
well, I'm
say
glad
gotcha.
Gotcha. I'm glad that you brought up video, because it's something that has won you some attention nationally, which is part of the innovation, I think, of just bringing video to media in general. And then for something, because Sumter, I feel like we've talked a lot this year, and even on this podcast, that it's amazing the things that we have for such a small town. Like, we've got this big giant brewery. No other town this size.
3 stories.
No other town has Sumter Original Brewery or a brewery like that size. I don't think any other town this size has a newspaper of this caliber.
Thank you. We hope that's the case. I mean, we know that, there's countless number of cities and counties this size that don't, and that won't ever again. You know, that's the sad part about it. Unless something drastic happens, there's communities all over this country that are news deserts, that the only news that they can get is something from 30 miles away. And that's a problem.
Yeah. There's a lot that can happen between here and 30 miles.
So we just have to stay relevant however we have to do it. And video obviously is a big way that we have to stay relevant. And so that's what we put an emphasis on right when we come into a place.
Well, I think the item as a whole kind of brings in, if you have somebody that wants to advertise, you've got graphic designers that help, and you've got all of that. And then for somebody like me, like, I sell real estate. There's no reason I should be up here doing a podcast. But you guys had this idea of, having podcasts and having a whole network, because you do have people that want to listen to it. And then I was like, can you record it visually?
And we can.
Thank you.
I think that, okay, so let's talk about it from the advertiser standpoint. Okay. There's so many, because that's, at the end of the day, we have to have them to function in what we do, unless the business model changes. Every single one of these, we're on Main Street right now. Every single one of these businesses here, they know where they have to be. They have to be online in order to reach their new targeted audiences, right? And the best way to reach those people online is through video. And so, for a local media company, because that's how we consider ourselves. Yes, we're a newspaper, but we try to talk about it in terms of like being a media company.
Yeah. And I just want to clarify, like, when I have thought, because real estate is a lot of marketing, which involves a lot of media, because you have to have a platform to talk on, and so media is that. Man, I totally lost my train of thought, but I was talking about real estate and marketing and coming back to you and what you guys do. Oh, how you're so good at it, how I think about, like, just coming to you, like, I want to do this, help me do it. Yeah. I think that you provide a lot of really good tools, and I think for me, you and Kayla have been easy to talk to about, I have this idea, and then you'd be like, well, it doesn't really work like that, but we could do it like this, and it'd be something that's very beneficial.
Well, so, okay, and that goes back to the advertisers thing. Like, they know, they're all smart enough. All these business owners, they own their own business. They're small business owners. They know that they need where they need to be. They just
have to have an online presence.
They just don't necessarily know how they get there or how they best put themselves out there. And so what we want to be and what we have to be if we want to survive going forward is be that answer for people. Because if we aren't, either you're, as a business owner, you're going to figure it out yourself, which takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and all that jazz, or you're going to turn to somebody in Columbia, an hour away, 45 minutes away, to come down here.
Or hobble it together. Right. Like, I could have done this.
Right.
Like, I could have bought a camera. I could have spent hours researching which camera, hours researching which audio whatever that is over
Yeah.
there.
Right.
I started on this process, and I was like, podcast is not in the cards for Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
I don't want to research it, and I for sure don't want to edit it because
Yeah.
I make more money selling real estate,
Spending your time the way you should.
than working on video and audio.
Right.
Whereas if I partner with you, it could be a win-win for the two of us.
Right, and we think too, or we know that our reach is further almost than any other small business owner would have here.
Because it's like 60,000.
I mean, if you combine everything, I think you could say
There's a
around that number.
of about 60,000
Yeah, I mean,
unique people that you could potentially reach through the system.
We're absolutely, and I mean that's through our print publication, which we've got about 12. Is that right? 10, 12 for our circulation. 10, 12 for circulation.
10, 12 what?
1,000.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. 10, 12,
10, 12
for,
days,
for,
people.
for print circulation.
Okay.
But then, we've got 25,000 people on Facebook and 30,000 email addresses where.
Oh, yeah, those email addresses really get you.
Yeah, I mean, that's
valuable.
And I think that's kind of where stuff is going for us. I mean, newspapers for a long time have always been a vital daily part of people's lives. Not necessarily for us, maybe, but for your parents and definitely for your grandparents. And so what we are trying to do again is be that daily where you're gonna go check that thing. So So email is that place for us. We need to have people make a habit out of coming to see us.
Well, and I noticed that like you guys send emails when I very specifically noticed this because I've tried to do it to other people, and I know that you did it on purpose. I get these emails when I'm bored at work. So like 4:45, where it's like I'm not going to finish anything else.
Yep.
I'm waiting for 5. Like, bam, email. This is what happened today. And so it brings me back to you've made it a craft. You've studied it, you've worked on it, not just for the sake of being good, but to meet the need of a community.
Absolutely.
I think that's great.
That's why we're here at the end of the day. I mean, we're very lucky that we love what we do, so that makes it easier on us on a day-to-day basis. But, I mean, we believe in journalism first and foremost. We believe in it's the institution of it. We believe that if news deserts continue to spread and continue to infect local communities, then corruption's going to continue to run rampant.
You have to have somebody out there beating the honest truth.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to go to the city councilman meetings. Nobody wants to go to the school board meetings.
Yeah.
And so.
But you have to go every single time because you
there.
don't know what Tuesday something crazy is going to happen.
Somebody's got to be there.
Somebody's got to be there.
Yep.
Well, and I think like you've said a couple of things that I don't think about journalism. What is journalism? I mean, it's communicating to a bunch of people.
Yeah. And I mean, and on a local level, I keep going back to this. That's why it's so important. It's like, where would you get this information if you weren't getting it from the Sumter Item?
Yeah.
You wouldn't get it. The one of the things I'm most proud about right now that we're doing through this whole COVID stuff is the COVID virtual response. We're doing Zoom interviews with local leaders in the community. And I'm thinking back to one in particular. They've all been great, but I'm thinking back to one in particular. We talked to Michelle Logan Owens, who's the CEO over at Prisma Health.
I love Michelle.
She's fantastic.
Love
She's
Michelle.
So cool. She's so good.
She's so cool.
And everyone loves her. All of her employees,
Can you Zoom her
shut
on
up
my
about
podcast?
She's
Can
great.
you get me with her
Yeah,
for a
let's see what we do.
conversation?
I don't
Yes,
know.
please.
I'm
I'm going to put you
I
on
don't
the
pull
spot.
any strings.
On camera.
But we can try.
I am not corrupt.
But so she gave us some local numbers the other day that you would never be able to get anywhere else. She told us that and these numbers may be different now, but by May 1st, something like 600 cases in the county. Where would you get that type of local info if it wasn't, for your local newspaper? So
and I know you guys cover Manning. I think it's a really good example. Manning and Camden.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the newspapers
those are also
there.
because there's not really. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple of.
But they're
Yeah.
30 miles away.
And well, and they've got local publications that are but they're dwindling. They're not.
Because it brings me back to a phrase. You said something about a desert.
Yeah,
what kind of desert?
A news desert.
Okay, so I don't know what a news desert is. It's somewhere
it's like a I think people, I don't know if they call it grocery deserts but it's essentially where within I keep saying 30, so I don't know if that's the exact reference that people talk about, but about 30 miles.
It would take you 15, 20 minutes to get to the next whatever.
Right. There's not a news outlet within 30 miles of your your town hall or whatever it is.
Well, and I think that's a really good example. So people coming from out of town moving here, they ask me, like, how long does it take to get such and such? My answer is always going to be under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's always going to take you less than 20 minutes to get anywhere in Sumter.
Somebody told me when I first moved here, actually, I think it was Matthew Morse. Shout out Matthew Morse.
Hey, Matthew.
He told me, and this may be a little inaccurate, so don't get mad at me.
Don't get caught up on the details.
But he told me when I first moved here that if someone tells you that they're on their way and they're more than 8 minutes late, then they were lying to you. And I think that's fantastic. I grew up in a small town in Mississippi, and that's just such
that sounds like something he would say. He says funny things like this all the time.
Well, that's something my mom would have said.
If they're more than 8 minutes late and they told you they were on your way, they lied. They were not actually on their way.
Right. They were still getting ready. Right. Exactly.
I'm always
You're a great example
right on
of that.
time for this because I'm like on my way, and I literally live 3 minutes away.
You have been getting much closer to the allotted time than
because I show up like right at time. I don't think about the fact that I have to put my stuff down and sit here.
That's okay.
It's like right at 5
and we
o'clock.
need time to warm up.
Yeah, I wasn't raised in the military. It's okay.
Yeah, me neither.
So I got to be there 15 minutes early. Oh, okay. You too, but you can manage to be on time. Is that the subtext?
I didn't say that.
You meant it though. My mama didn't raise no fool.
That's right. I love your mama, by the way.
Thank you.
She's super sweet.
She is sweet and very passionate, and I love that about her.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Mama.
Hey, Mama Gibson. And Mama Green. We shout out
both moms.
We shout out to both moms today.
In the same L.
Dang. Oh, I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting I'm not supposed to be touching you.
Oh.
Oh.
It's okay. We got our safety workers.
Safety workers. We've washed our hands.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, what else do you want to tell me about journalism and your life?
I'm really happy to be here in Sumter right now. Every place that I've moved to, and I've had some reservations about going to those places. Every single place, even in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But Sumter has been Sumter has been an incredible place to kind of get back down those like small town roots. Like I said, I grew up in a small town in Mississippi. To be in Atlanta for 6 years and come back here, it feels like home. And I'm just not running into the same people at Walmart, which is nice.
It's hard when you grow up in a place and seeing the people that you went to in high school with outplay, because it's really hard to let people be somebody different than who they were when you grow up with.
Yeah.
So I think that's the hardest part, and a lot of people that grew up here are still here. Some people have come back, and just even when you go and come back and you see those same faces, you're like, you're still that jerk that cut me off in the parking lot in high school. Let it go.
Never forget that.
Yeah, and that one thing set you off to like this 6-week feud, and you're just like, let it go.
See, all of mine are in South Mississippi. I don't have to worry about anything.
So Sumter's fantastic, home but not.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't run into my kindergarten teacher anywhere. It's great.
Oh gosh. Well. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
It has been a lot of fun.
Got me out of my element a little bit. I like to stay on the other side.
I saw you a little nervous.
I
didn't know you got this nervous about stuff. But it's cool. Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a pleasure talking to Micah, and as always, In Sumter with Sarah Jane is powered by F45, and they are doing online classes. So check them out online, and thank you so much for tuning in.
See ya. Whoop. Boom.
Bam. That is a really good one. I loved it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That was cool.
It was cool.